put to call ratio. We're at a point in time now where people are getting so much less bearish that they're becoming not very interested in buying put options, okay? And so whenever this ratio is at a 1, basically that's even. Now, the market in general goes up. So naturally, there should be more people playing calls and puts. So naturally, this number should be under 1 most of the time, okay? But when people get very bearish on the market, it actually goes over 1, which means people are playing heavy puts, right? And you can certainly look back going into this year, a lot of people playing put options heavy. Certainly, this is around SVB time, regional banking collapse. A lot of people playing puts very heavy during that point in time, right? Obviously, right here, remember, we just looked at when the market was the most bearish we've seen in the past year, and actually around the most bearish we've seen since the great financial crisis, right? That was back in late September going into October, right? And look at how many people were playing put options. There was overwhelming amount of people playing put options, right? So the market had gotten extremely bearish, right? But now at this point in time, clearly people have gotten a lot less interested in put options, and they're getting a lot more interested in call options, right? Which is why this number is going down and down and down. If you ever see this go, below 0.7, then you're really talking, people are really in a bullish standpoint, right? If you look at something like the VIX is dead, and it's desensitized, right? It's so hard to shake up the bulls nowadays because the bulls have been through so much. I mean, the bulls have been through so much just in the past few years. It's so hard to shake bulls. You talked about Rona, the worldwide economy closing. You talked about, the first major conflict in Europe since WW2, right? You're talking about the highest inflation we've seen in, a generation, if not 2 generations, right? You got to go all the way back to the 70s to see this type of inflation we've seen recently. And so when you talk about all that, right, the Fed raising rates at the fastest clip they've ever raised rates in history in terms of a percentage up, right? When you get all that thrown on investors in a 3-year span, investors start to become desensitized. They start to become not very fearful. It takes so much to really shake out and shake up the bulls to make them say, you know what, I got to cut my whole portfolio. It's so hard. There's a certain amount of weak hands in the market, as they call them, right? But to get the people that have been in this market 10, 15, 20, 25 years that are bulls, to get them to really shake out of everything is so damn difficult now at this point in time because they've just gotten very desensitized. So to get the VIX to really pop in a major way has become very, very difficult, right? If you look in the past year, the VIX is down 50%, which basically means there's just no volatility in the market whatsoever, folks. And so that's the market we're in right now, okay? Now we're going to talk about how to position your portfolio moving forward. We're in a market where the VIX is dead. It's completely desensitized. We're in a market that it's looked past everything that was going on bad. And now we got some actual bullish shoots that are starting to emerge. And sentiment's just gone to the bullish side. And keep in mind, when you flip sentiment over to the bullish side, many times you're going to remain over there for many months or potentially even years, depending upon how long of a bull run you had, right? That depends upon many various things. So how long does this bull ride last? I don't know. I can tell you this. A lot of fund managers are still underweight. So they've got to chase the indexes in the second half of this year. So really there's a lot of fund managers that they need this market to go down so flippin' flapjack and bad. And if they don't get it, what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to position more into stocks, which is going to push up valuations even more, okay? Year to date, NVIDIA stock is up 170%. Palantir's up 135%. Tesla's up 126%. Meta's up 112%. The Qs are up 34%, right? And that's year to date. And so a lot of people are thinking, I've got to sell these stocks. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, stocks aren't supposed to go up 100% in a year, right? Okay. First off, very important. NASDAQ got wrecked last year. Peak to trough, we were down about 37%. In the great financial crisis, the NASDAQ got wrecked. It was down over 50% in the great financial crisis, okay? Now, coming out of both those scenarios, we saw the NASDAQ roar. We saw the Qs roar specifically, right? So keep in mind, this is the past 6 months for the Qs. Well, almost 6 months, right? This is a year to date. The Qs are up 34%. Now, coming out of the great financial crisis, when I say coming out of the great financial crisis, I don't mean everything was good. I mean just coming off the lows of the great financial crisis. The NASDAQ over that next 6-month span went up about 61%, went up over 60% 6 months coming off the 2009 lows, right? Now, keep in mind, this was not like everything was fixed in the world. I can tell you that much, okay? The economy was a complete disaster still while the Qs rose 60% here. Unemployment was skyrocketing during this time. The housing crisis was getting far worse with foreclosures everywhere, banks going under all over the place. If I recall, more banks went under in 2009 than went under in 2008, and I believe even more went under in 2010 than went down in 2008, which is crazy to think about, right? So the world was a disaster. There was still a lot of scariness, but there was a belief starting to come into the market that things were going to get better in the future years, and that 2009 was a low, and so you needed to start to position into the market because things were going to get better over the next few years. And guess what? That prediction was right. Things got a little bit better in 2010, and then they got a little better again in 2011, then better in 2012, and better for years and years to go in the future, all the way up until we got to Rona, essentially. So the market was 100% correct. They got it right. 2009 was the worst, and things started to get better in future years, okay? And so when you see a move like we had in the Qs over this past, let's call it 6 months or so, right? A 30% plus move, that is a market saying that 2023 is a low, and 2024 things are going to get better. In 2025 things are going to get better, okay? That does not mean it's a for sure thing, but I can tell you that it's what the market is telling us right now. No different than it told us that in 2009 when things were still messy. And this year things have still been messy on many different fronts, right? Especially the first few months of the year, inflation was still really high. I think the numbers are going to get a lot better over this next few months, but it is something to keep in mind. So it is not uncommon. This is actually a pretty lame performance for the Qs coming out of this. 30+%. We had 60+% coming off the great financial crisis low, okay? But also keep in mind the market didn't get as heavy as in the great financial crisis, right? And it shouldn't have, because the great financial crisis was a whole different set of situations we had to deal with, right? If you think about a stock like Tesla, right? People are looking at Tesla like, oh my gosh, this stock is up like, 100+% in the past 6 months, right? This is insane, okay? No, okay? Late 2020 through early 2021, Tesla stock climbed 168% in a 6-month span. In the 6-month span, early 2020 through mid 2020, Tesla stock climbed 219%. In late 2019 through just before Rona happened, Tesla stock climbed 317%. There's some people very misinformed. They thought, oh, Tesla stock just went up a bunch because it was during Rona. No, Tesla stock was soaring before Rona. Actually, Rona was something that hurt Tesla's business model substantially, especially in the short term. If Rona would never happen, I wouldn't be surprised if, Tesla stock would be higher today if Rona never happened. If it never, ever happened. That's just factual in regards to that. That screwed up a lot of stuff on a lot of different fronts, including causing the Fed to obviously go insane with interest rates, which has caused auto loans to go much higher. If Rona never happened, Tesla today would probably be a $1.5 trillion market cap today if Rona never happened. That screwed up a lot. Never mind supply chains. Oh my gosh, don't even get me started on that. Late 2016 through early 2017, Tesla stock climbed 97% in 6 months. This was around mid-2013. Tesla climbed 409% in about 6 months. 409%. Let that sink in for just a moment here, okay? Late 2012 through early 2013, Tesla stock climbed 181% in about 6 months, okay? What you just saw there, okay, what you just witnessed, that is what happens to great stocks. How do you think a stock goes up thousands of percent or tens of thousands of percent? It goes on some absolutely insane epic runs where the stock goes up 100%, 200%, 300%, 400% in a 6-month span. And your mind is just like blown in that short-term time, right? I'm like, wow, how in the world did this happen? Well, many of these time periods, companies' revenues are skyrocketing, their business prospects are skyrocketing, or their net income skyrocketing. And in certain scenarios, it's all three happening at the same exact time. Now, if you look at somebody like myself, I've been a Tesla investor for maybe 5 years, 4 or 5 years, right? I think 5 years probably is about right? And I've gained 936% on Tesla stock. And what I can tell you is it hasn't been a perfect ride. I can tell you that much. It's been a lot of bumpiness, shakiness, a lot of scariness has gotten into that. But you don't get a 900% gain without having to go through that. Now, let me tell you this, okay? I sold most of my Tesla shares, and I regret it. I regret every share I ever sold. This is all I got left for Tesla now, 1,665 shares. I should have, let's just call it a lot of thousands of shares of Tesla. And I sold them like an idiot. And I can tell you every single person that has basically ever sold Tesla stock regrets it. Almost every single person, meaning 99% plus of the people that have ever bought at least one share of Tesla, they regret it. Over 99%.